Welcome into the Skinny Podcast. It's the weekly Potpourri edition. I'm Richard Skinner, Local12.com digital sports columnist and editor, along with Rick Boring. As always, it's presented by Blake, the attorney Mason. We've got some college basketball to talk about. Bengals get some good news of sorts this week, but it led me to just shrug my shoulders at that news. We got a Bengals game to preview, our college football pick'em segment, and our best bet of the week segment. And my favorite part of the podcast, where you can ask me a question on any topic, just go to the Twitterverse, hit up the hashtag AskSkinnyAnything. Rick, I think we're going to start with college basketball over this big Bengals news that happened Monday, because there's some significant college basketball news to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on in the college basketball world. It's early in the season. Usually you kind of ignore it for those first few weeks, but we've got the Kentucky-Louisville game early in the season. We've got Xavier's season blowing up already. The fans are losing it. And then obviously a big local game with UC and Dayton to get to as well. So let's start off with that. Skinny, I want to go to Louisville 96-88 win over Kentucky first. What is the reaction to that, especially from the Kentucky perspective?
I mean, I'm listening to a talk show this morning before we did this podcast, the Lexington show, and they weren't losing their minds, but it sounds like a chunk of the fan base are losing their minds. Like, the Mark Pope honeymoon is over. I mean, the guy's lost to Cal, and now he's lost to Louisville. How dare he? What I got out of that game most of all, were there issues that we can talk about? Sure. Louisville's pretty damn good, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, going into the season, I felt like both of these teams had the chance to be Final Four contender type teams. And I came away thinking that was the case after this game. Now, Louisville was super impressive. The fact that they built up a 20-point lead and all that was great. They're also playing at home. I didn't think Kentucky played all that well, and they gave up that 20-point lead. Kentucky stormed right back and made a game of it. Obviously, they pulled off to the 8-point win. I impressive performance by Louisville. I also go back to, the Kentucky fans that are losing their minds because Pope loses a big game here. I mean, I do have to go back to last year. One of the big narratives was, hey, Kentucky is back because they're showing up for these big games. We went through the end of the Cal tenure where it was like every time they had that big opportunity to get a big win, it felt like they failed. Well, now you're looking at last year with Pope, and it's like you beat Duke, you beat Gonzaga, you beat Louisville, you beat Florida, you beat Tennessee twice until you lose to them in the Sweet 16, obviously. But that's besides the point here. I mean, I don't think there's any reason to be worried about Pope and this team showing up for big games or anything like that after what they did last season. And I do think that Kentucky is going to have to figure out their offense a little bit. It seems like it goes in spurts. Like, they're really talented, but they have those stretches where it seems to fall apart on them a little bit.
Yeah, I needed Otega Oweh to show up a little more than he showed up in that game. That's one thing. He's got to figure out what to do with the big men situation. Brandon Garrison I don't know if that's going to work out for major minutes. I know there was some complaint about him playing two bigs too much together, and he actually admitted that he played two bigs too long together. And so maybe he learns that lesson early in a season. That's great. I think that's it means a lot for him to go ahead and admit, I waited too long to make the switch of not playing the two bigs together. And it's a lesson learned. Would have been nicer for him to learn it earlier in that game? Sure. But lesson learned in November, I'll take that if it goes a long way towards where you do in March with situations like that.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with Oweh. That was one of, I said get the offense on track and figure it out through those tough stretches. It's like Oweh can't do what he did in this game. I mean, he finished minus 16 in the plus minus on the box score. You can't have that from the preseason SEC player of the year. And then also Jalen Lowe, I mean, he did some good things throughout this game, but in crunch time, you get down to it. He takes the crazy pull-up three. He dribbles the ball out of bounds on the end line. There was another, I believe, turnover that he had or crazy shot. So he had like three mistakes in a row right towards the end of the game where you're trying to make that furious comeback. You need better play out of some of your top guys on the offensive end in crunch time. And I'm sure everyone will look at the score and say, you can't give up 96 points either. But I think Louisville's really talented offensively. I mean, Ryan Conwell, the Xavier transfer, looked great. He had 24. He kind of torched Kentucky's defense. And then Mikael Brown Jr. is special. He had 29 in this game. He was really good.
Yeah, no. I mean, let's play this game again in March and see what the result is on a neutral floor, right? I mean, I think they're two really good teams. Louisville showed it's a little bit better at the moment, especially playing at home.
Yeah. What do you think about the coaching matchup right now? This feels like it's Pope versus Kelsey needed to happen. You needed two goofballs at the same time. If this was like Calipari versus Kelsey, it would be so annoying and deflating because you'd have Kelsey doing all the stuff he's doing and Cal just being too cool for all of it, not responding, acting like he's totally above the fray. The fact that they're both kind of like corny and goofballs it makes this matchup kind of funny again. I like it.
No doubt. And Listen, I know everybody hates their rival, right? But you want to hate the rival when they're good. I mean, when you're beating them when they're bad, it's not as much fun, right? I want my rival to be good because when I beat my rival, my school beats my rival, I want to celebrate that as a big win, not as they won 5 games under Kenny Payne and we beat Louisville that year. Woohoo!
Right. All right, let's switch gears here to Cincinnati. They beat Dayton 74-62. Day Thomas had 20 points. Sean Abayev had 14 points. Skinny, I know you watched some of this game. What did you take away from this one?
Yeah, I watched the first half of it. You won by 12, committing 24 turnovers and not shooting free throws all that good. I don't want to burst the bubble here. I don't think Dayton's going to have a very good year. I don't think they're very good, to be quite frank with you. But still, you turned it over 24 times. I just was pulling up the box score. I can't remember. It was awful from the free throw line, too, for UC. They shot, I want to say 23 of 37, something like that. Yeah, 23 of 37. And that includes, if you take out Day, he was 12 for 12. The rest of the team was 11 of 25. And you still won by 12.
Right. I mean, Dayton outscored them 25-7 in points off turnovers. Just from a standpoint of UC style and what they're trying to accomplish defensively, that would be a little bit concerning right there. But like you said, to win easily in this one, not really be challenged despite some of those bad numbers, I guess that's a good sign. What do you think about the point guard play, the ball handling, to turn the ball over that much? They went in, obviously you lose Jizzle James. They've kind of been running Kerr Kreese at the point guard spot a lot. You also have Day, but it feels like maybe they don't have a true natural point guard.
No, and I think everybody assumes Kerr is that guy. And he just, go back and look at some of his numbers at his other stops, Arizona and West Virginia, and they're pretty good. They're okay. But the guy I saw at Kentucky last year is just a meh player, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he's always been a guy with a high turnover rate, too. Yeah. That's the part of Kerr Kreese. He's kind of a high-risk, high-reward guy.
These were a lot of sloppy turnovers, like stuff that in practice you would stop and go, get on the line and run. We're not doing that kind of stuff anymore. And I think that's probably the learning moment from this game of, one-hand cross-court passes, sometimes just literally throwing a pass right to a guy. It was ugly in some stages to watch, but that kind of stuff to me is fixable.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, really, aside from you've got that game that you just played against Dayton, you have Louisville coming up on next Friday. That's going to be obviously their biggest challenge of the non-conference schedule. Then later on, you have Xavier and Georgia back-to-back when you get into early December. Xavier's struggling mightily. I know it's still the crosstown shootout, but there aren't a whole lot of tests like this for UC before they get into Big 12 play. So if nothing else, you can check one off the box and say, hey, we cruised to an easy win.
And you would hope this turns into a quad 2 win when the season's over. I don't know if it will. I'm not sure Dayton doesn't slip to quad 3 when all is said and done, but it beats the alternative.
Yes. All right, Xavier, you were at this game. Did you make it to the end of Xavier's 87-68 loss to Santa Clara, which started at 8:30 p.m.?
I did not go to that. I went to the Lemoyne game.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were at Santa Clara.
No, I watched the game. I did not make it to the end. I flipped very quickly over to something else.
What's the most concerning part about the way things have started here for Xavier?
Just watching them in person, they're just not. They don't have a lot of foot speed. They can't keep people in front of them. They don't have a consistent score. I think he's still looking for a consistent lineup. Like, Roddy Anderson. The first game he didn't get a whole ton of minutes. Then he doesn't start the second game, but then comes off the bench and scores 20, and he has 29 in this game. Can you now start to say I can count on him? I hope so. But other than that, you can't count. There's nobody to count on this team.
Yeah, I think that's
all night goes for 14 one night and can't make a shot another night.
Well, and your leading scorer going into the Santa Clara game, Malik Messina Moore, averaging 16.5 points per game, doesn't attempt a shot in the entire game.
Yeah, which is insane.
Skinny, you can't have that. I don't understand what that even is. That's the biggest issue with this team, and we've been saying it since the preseason. They do not have a best player. They do not have a go-to player. They certainly don't have a guy that would live up to that billing in the Big East Conference for a good team. They've got a lot of guys that look like they might be able to fit in as a role guy, as a fourth or fifth option. But yeah, when it comes to playing decent competition, which, it's Santa Clara, it's not like we're talking about them playing Duke or Carolina here, but even against a team like Santa Clara, they look completely overmatched. And I think that's the biggest problem if you're a Xavier fan. It's not that this team is struggling because you expected them to struggle. You didn't expect a good year from a wins-loss perspective, but you did hope that there was going to be something to dream on, either guys that are worth keeping around for next year and building around, or you see, hey, this group fits the style of play and it's fun to watch this new style of play and we'll get better players in here and continue to build on this. Right now, it all looks like a complete disaster. There's nothing to hope on if you're a Xavier fan.
Yeah, and listen, I got to be honest with you. Just from a sheer coach, I thought Lemoyne was a well-coached team and ran a lot of good actions and did a lot of good stuff. But they shouldn't push you on your home floor. I mean, that in the Marist game and this combined, it all is alarming. That's where you start to hunt. I don't think this team gets to 10 wins.
No, I agree. I had them at 11-20 before the season. I would drop that down now to like 7 and 20. What would that be? 24.
And listen, I think the fan base has steeled itself to know it was going to be a rough season, right?
Yeah.
They're staying away in droves at the moment. I know what they're announcing for crowds. It's probably tickets sold, but a lot of empty seats at the Lemoyne game. They look like there were a lot of empty seats on Monday night against Santa Clara. I think team fans have probably already understandably checked out on this team. And in college basketball today, man, you don't have a long time to get stuff fixed. So he needs a huge offseason, both in the portal and from the recruiting standpoint.
Sure, but I think before you get to that, you're hoping, look, you took all these sophomores with the idea of a couple of them were going to be worth keeping around. You've got a whole season to figure out, can you get any of these guys going? Are any of them going to be worth? And like, maybe there's tough conversations and you have to ask them to take a pay cut from what they took this year. I'm sure no one wants to hear that in this day and age, and that might cause them to transfer. But I do think you have to find something that's worth keeping around from this roster, because if you go into next year's transfer portal and you have to build an entirely new roster again, you're likely to be in a similar spot you were this year. I don't think it's going to be as difficult in terms of the amount of spending from some of the bigger football schools that you're going up against to get these players. And you're not starting as late. Guys maybe don't already have preconceived ideas about where they're going, so you're not having to overpay as much to get some of them to change their mind. But you still can't put together an entirely new roster every single year in the transfer portal. It's just going to be too expensive.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I mean, these games have been at home. I mean, what happens when this team hits the road, Jack?
No, it's going to be ugly, and especially early on here. There is the room for teams to get better and young guys to start playing better and an entirely new group of guys to come together more. But the problem you see through these first 3 games, Skinny, and you saw it in person, they don't look more talented than their mid-major opponents that they're playing against. They don't look more athletic. And in fact, this style of defense that they're trying to play where it's disruptive and you're pressuring the ball, they look too slow-footed to do that against mid-major guys. I don't know what's going to happen when you're playing against actual Big East athletes.
Yeah, they're going to be rolling up 100-point games on this group.
Yeah, it really could be. I mean, you gave up 87 to Santa Clara. So
yeah. And I did not know until Monday that Herb Sendek was the coach at Santa Clara.
Yeah. He's got him rolling here a little bit. He's been there for a while. It's struggled for a bit, and then now he's kind of got him going the right direction again.
I haven't watched wet WCC basketball that much, I guess.
And you got to stay up late.
I guess so.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up with the NKU Norse. They lost to Tennessee 95-56, and then East Tennessee State 75-63. That game was just Wednesday night at East Tennessee State. Skinny, Dan Goresger had 24 points, 5 3-pointers versus ETSU. Kind of frustrating, I think, to spoil shooting and scoring performance like that from one of your star players. But the Tennessee loss was, I think, expected. And when you saw it in person, it was like, okay, well, everyone on their team is 6'8" to 6'11", big, dominant on the glass. Like NKU just had no business matching up with them inside physically. They couldn't get a defensive rebound. You kind of scratch it off. The East Tennessee State game, man, you can't start the way they started in both of those halves and dig themselves such a hole. They were down 18-4 to start this game, and then they only trailed by 1 at halftime.
Yeah. Going back to the Tennessee game, that reminds me last year when I was at the St. John Xavier game, and when I first saw the St. John's guys come out, I'm like, oh my gosh, these are men. They got a bunch of
look
men.
Different.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's exactly how Tennessee's players looked, especially when you compare it to NKU. Before I get to the basketball, what did you think of Thompson Bowling?
Incredible. It's a palace. That's the nicest arena I've been in, save for Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, it's cool. I like Thompson Bowling a lot.
Yeah, it is super nice and big at the same time.
So I'll ask you, going into the East Tennessee State game, what were your expectations?
Well, East Tennessee State's about 130 spots higher than NKU on KenPom. It's on the road at East Tennessee State. The thing that gave me some hope going in was they had just lost at Presbyterian, who was ranked closer to 300 in Ken Palm. So you're thinking, okay, maybe that ranking's a little out of whack because it's so early in the season. They've got some new guys, and also maybe they're struggling a little bit to find themselves. But at the same time, you have the flip side of that is, well, they just had their slip-up loss. They're coming back home to try to get right. They're going to be focused. And I think you saw a little bit of that defensively. They were super aggressive. They really play that style well that I think Steve Forbes kind of brought there, and now his former assistant, Brooks Savage, is keeping in place there. They try to get a bunch of turnovers. They have long athletes, and they did a good job of keeping NKU from penetrating and stealing their passes along the perimeter, forcing them to attempt a lot of threes in this game. So I had some hope that NKU would be able to pull that one out, and they did challenge them at different times, but they just, man, too many mistakes, too many turnovers on the perimeter, and they weren't able to get inside and get to the free throw line enough. LJ Wells didn't score in this game for the Norse.
Yeah, and that can't happen.
Yeah, you can't have that. I mean, I thought in Tennessee, he only had like 5 points. He didn't put together a nice box score, but I thought he really battled against their big men in an impossible situation. Against East Tennessee State, they didn't have that same type of size. They had big and athletic players in the front court, but you can't have an O for night from him.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, the one thing I will say, Donovan O'Day, the transfer from Cal State Fullerton, the one Division I transfer they had, he's the only player on the team to score in double figures in every game so far. He's had 15, 14, and 14. So that's one early positive return for the Norse. You were hoping you could add another big-time scorer. Donovan O'Day, and really Cale Robinson, too, have been living up to the hype in that regard so far.
What's going on in the rest of the Horizon League?
Crazy league this year, man. You've got some of the teams up at the top look like they're going to be pretty tough. I mean, Youngstown State has shown well at different times. Milwaukee has shown well. Robert Morris has had some impressive results. So there's a bunch of different teams up there that look like they have some talent. I think there's like 6 or 7 teams that could be contending for the top few spots. But then all the way down at the bottom of the league, like you have IU Indy this year with the brand new coach again. They're running up and down, playing at this insane pace. It's the coach from West Liberty, who put up like 120 something points at D2 every game. So they've got an interesting style. It's going to be an entertaining year.
And Oakland just got punched in the mouth by Houston.
Yeah, Oakland. That's right. All right, let's go to the Bengals next. If you're good with that, Joe Burrow returned to practice this week. Skinny, what does this mean, and what are you making of this potential Thanksgiving return timeline that people are giving him?
It's probably not going to matter. I mean, you got a good chance to lose the next 2 games at Pittsburgh and New England at home. By then, you're 3-8. My only hope is we see the defense get better. Because if the defense doesn't get better, it's not going to make any difference. We saw this last year. We saw Joe Burrow throw for almost 5,000 yards and 43 touchdowns. We saw them lose 4 games when they scored at least 33 points. We're seeing that on repeat this year. Joe Flacco scores 80 points the last 2 games, and you lose them both. So I know there's some level of good news there because it's not going to be as long-term as maybe some thought it was going to be. That seems to be the target, is that Thanksgiving night return. But they could honestly be 3-8, and if they're not, maybe we see some life in the defense. But let me ask you, what gives anyone hope that Miles Murphy is going to finally have a pulse? What gives you any hope that the 2 rookie linebackers figure it out? Maybe they do. That's probably where my only hope on the defense lies, is the 2 rookie linebackers start to figure it out, and they help the defense get a little bit better. What corner outside of DJ Turner do you trust? Cam Taylor-Britt, Josh Newton? And the 2 safeties are arguably 2 of the worst in the league, and there's nobody behind them. What makes anyone think that they're going to get better? It's an island of misfit toys is what it is.
Well, they got that dark cloud Logan Wilson out from over top of them. Now the linebackers can just be true leaders of this team, and just fully come into their role as leaders. I
need to see some life. If the defense shows me some life in these next 2 games, and the offense continues to play the way it is, and they do find a way to win, well then, okay, it's exciting, but wake me when it gets to that part.
Right. That's the problem with Joe Burrow coming back and people getting excited about it. It's like Joe Flacco, the quarterback situation, isn't the issue right now. Right. Joe Flacco's been incredible. You could have subbed Joe Burrow in there, and I think, the offense couldn't have played any better hardly than what it did with Joe Flacco. So I don't know what this fixes. I guess it's good to see that maybe this injury isn't super long term, that Joe Burrow is able to recover from and get healthy, I'll be honest, I'm going to be terrified if they put him back in a game this early. It feels like you're just asking for trouble with him trying to return as soon as he can. Now, I'm sure he's going to be medically cleared more than 100% and all of that stuff before he does come back. But to me, it just feels like, why? To your point, it's not going to matter for this season. And if he does get hurt, then what are we talking about in terms of his future and the Bengals' future?
Yeah, and I was asked yesterday, I did my weekly segment with Mo Egger, and Mo just asked, what do you think he should even play at all if they're 3-8? And I said,
yeah, what do you think about that?
I said, yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, if you're cleared 100% to play and you're being paid to play the game, that's your job. And he wants to play. He's a super competitive guy. Then, yeah, he plays. I get that fans are going to be holding their breath for the final, 6 games, because if they're 3-8, you're literally just playing out the string of a losing season at that point.
So from that perspective, I can see him being like, yeah, it's my job to play. I want to be out there with my guys. Is it the Bengals' responsibility? Should the Bengals be saying, no, you're not going to play in meaningless games at the end of the year when you've already been seriously injured multiple times throughout your career? We're just going to save you.
No, I don't. I honestly don't. I know that's an understandable sentiment. But again, if he's cleared 100% and he's fully healthy, then go do your job, man.
How much do you think those guys don't want to miss out on the games for their career stats numbers? Like, even though they're meaningless games, do you think Burrow and Chase care about like getting those numbers?
I think there's something to that. I think there's some truth to that. But I also think, I mean, let's face it, man, these guys are super competitive, right? And if you're healthy enough to play, you want to play. I mean, I think Joe Flacco's been outstanding in these press conference settings. I could listen to him. I really could listen to him all day. And he said this a bunch of times, like, when I was the backup, you got to keep bad thoughts out of your heads. I want to play. I have fun playing this game, and I want to keep playing it for as long as I can. So I finally got another opportunity to go play, and I'm just going to make the most of it for as long as I can make it. And I think that's for a good chunk of these guys. That's their sentiment of, if I'm healthy, man, I want to play.
All right, I haven't asked anything that I'm going to move up into this segment because it kind of fits in line with all of this stuff. What would you say are the chances that Burrow and or Chase would come out and ask for a trade over the course of their contracts if things continue to spiral the wrong direction for the Bengals?
It's a great question.
Both are signed until 2029, correct?
Yep. That's a great question, because obviously Burrow hasn't been part of this spiral, this year because he's been out. Jamar obviously has tried to say all the right things in post games. I'm still waiting for that post game blow up, and maybe it never comes. But if this offseason they don't do something to fix the defense, and let's just say we go into next year and we have the same old defensively, and they're losing games 35-33 like they done this year a couple times, like they did last year with Joe Burrow a handful of times. I could certainly see that, because at that point it's like, hey man, we're doing our job, and you guys can't get this other side of the football right. We're playing at a championship caliber level on this side of the ball, and yet you didn't make the playoffs in 2023, in 2024. You're trending towards not making it in 2025. If this again spirals next year, that's 2026. Again, with a championship caliber quarterback, potentially 2 Hall of Fame caliber players in Chase and Higgins, and you can't even make the playoffs with those dudes because you couldn't fix the defense. I can see that being frustrating. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I saw this question a lot of times, these types of questions are like whatever-ish, but in this case with those guys and the way this situation is going, it doesn't seem all that unreasonable, as competitive as they are, that at some point they're like, yeah, this is the disaster. This is what we were warned about from Carson Palmer and Andrew Whitworth and those other former Bengals players, TJ Houshmandzadeh. This is what everyone was talking about. Let's try to salvage what we can of our careers here.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I could understand that. Again, I don't think we're there yet, even if they win only a couple more games this year, right, and Joe comes back and lights it up and defense is still causing troubles, and you were kind of out of it when you came back anyway. But if it continues into next season for a handful of games, I can certainly see it's a legitimate question.
Going back to Burrow's decision to play or not, how much do you think the record of the team factors into that? Because there was a little bit of hinting of like, there are a lot of factors. We'll see where we're at in a couple of weeks. Do you think that's what he's meaning there?
No, I truly think they want to get him through 2 weeks and see where he's at that point, and say, okay, you've done everything. Zach talked yesterday about watching Joe throw on Monday, and he said, listen, all we did was throw from a pocket on air. We didn't, have go 11 on 11. They haven't done that. I think they'll probably won't do that until sometime next week. Get him in some 11 where he starts to move around. because even he talked about, I didn't do a whole lot of twitchy stuff, and that's the stuff, you got to push off on your toe. Because he even said, he goes, you really don't push off on the big toe as much as you think when you throw. It's more when you're moving around in the pocket. And let's see how that feels. So I think they just want to see, what does this feel like in a couple of weeks, and then let's revisit all of this. And maybe the record does matter. Maybe they do tell him, dude, just sit this one out. We're 3-8.
We want a tank to get a higher pick.
Yeah, there's that too. Our offense is doing just fine. We're basically mathematically eliminated. But I don't see that, man. These guys want to play. I mean, they want to play.
All right. Let's talk some college football. Cincinnati was on a bye. They host Arizona this Saturday at noon, so we will slide on past them and go to Kentucky, who smacked Florida 38-7, Skinny. You were right. Cutter Boley was 18 for 23 for 168 yards with 2 touchdowns and interception. The running backs got it going again. Daddle had 7 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown, and McGowan had 22 carries for 92 yards and 2 TDs. Skinny, Florida was a disaster in this game. DJ Lagway, 11 of 19, 83 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. They just don't have any type of passing game. I mean,
he was awful. I will say the end of that first half was bizarre. You had each team turned over twice in a 7-play span. It was goofy to watch.
Do you think that, I see the players are rallying around Stoops. You kind of mentioned last week that you felt if he gets them to a bowl game, wins out and gets them to a bowl game, that he's probably saved himself. Do you sense that there's like a relenting of the Mark Stoops hot seat all of a sudden after the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, now you can look back with a different eye on some of this. Like, you played Ole Miss toe-to-toe. You played Texas toe-to-toe. Tennessee did boat race you in your own place, and that was certainly ugly. And there was an ugly loss at South Carolina where Cutter had 2 turnovers on what was it, back-to-back plays that were returned for touchdowns that kind of turned that game on its ear. But you have been more competitive even in the losses. And listen, this is a terrible Florida team. They fired their coach. They look a mess. DJ Lagway looked a mess. But you got an interesting game this week with an undefeated FCS team coming into Kroger Field. Tennessee Tech, I think they're ranked number 5 in FCS. So they're not going to be the typical FCS pushover, I don't believe. But they should win that, right? I mean, obviously that gets you to 5-5, and then you got 2 swings at it against a really good Vandy team and a pretty damn good Louisville team. You're going to have to earn that bowl bid. It's not like you've got bye games here at the end of the year that are going to sneak you into this. The bye game is going to get you to 500, and you got 2 pretty good tests, and you got to win one of those.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm just curious about how that's going to feel at the end of the season now. As like you said, the narrative is all of a sudden changing a little bit. It feels like, how will people feel at the end of the season? I guess we have to see how they do in these final games.
I think part of the fear was you didn't know what Cutter Boley was, even though he was fairly highly regarded, actually. And you thought when the Calzada thing was a disaster that, okay, what if Boley's a disaster and he's going to have to go to the portal again, and he hasn't had much success outside of Will Levis getting a quarterback out of the portal? Do you trust him to do that? Well, now it's make sure you find a way to keep Cutter Boley around because he's proven to be an SEC caliber quarterback.
Yeah. Do you feel good about him going forward into next year?
I do. I just hope that there's not a higher bidder out there for his services.
Speaking of that, you mentioned Zach Calzada. We'll talk about the video in a second, but how?
Come on, Garrett.
Come on, Garrett. How do you think this season would have gone had they made the decision to bypass him and start the season with Cutter Boley? Do you think we'd be looking at it differently?
I don't know, because I still don't know if that would have been Cutter Boley's second start against South Carolina. Against Ole Miss. I don't know if he was ready in start number 2. I mean, they won the first game with Zach Calzada, then they lost, and Calzada got hurt and kind of lost his job. I don't think they'd been in any of a different place record wise. I really don't.
Fair enough. The video with Zach Calzada counting his NIL money, yelling at, I guess, someone who chirped him on Twitter.
I didn't realize what a gritball he was.
Yeah, that was a wild video. I mean, he looked like he was a 14-year-old in Newport down the street from me here, counting his stacks of 10s on the corner. I don't understand what was going on there. Like, did he just lose his mind? Are these kids smoking too much of their THC pens? What's going on?
It's a great question, man. I honestly don't know. I'm trying to figure out what in the world whatever Garrett was, he was clapping back at my man Garrett.
Yeah.
But that was a bad look for everyone. That's a bad look for him. That's a bad look for NIL. It shows what Kentucky wasted money on that guy, supposedly in the 7-figure range. I hope you're smart with your money, Zach. I just hope you're smart with that money, man. I don't think however much that was, and I'm guessing it had to reach close to 5 figures, right?
I didn't count it up. I heard people laughing that it was only like, several $1,000s. It was just a stack of hundreds. I don't know how much it was, but
yeah, but I mean,
either way,
I don't think it's too smart to have that kind of cash laying around your apartment in college either. Do you?
No, those security doors usually aren't great. It usually takes a good kick in there, and then all of a sudden you've been ransacked for all your weed and your money there, Zach. So maybe think twice about what you're showing off there. I do you think this is the last time in Zach Calzada's career, period, not just football wise, that he'll earn 7 figures in 1 year?
Yes, unless he does something illicit.
Yes, I would agree with that. All right, Ohio State beat Purdue 34-10. They play UCLA at 7:30 on Saturday. Jeremiah Smith, 10 catches for 137 yards and 1 TD. We've talked about him not having as many explosive games this year. This was one of those. I don't really care about this game because we talked about before it was an expected blowout, but I'm more interested, Skinny, in the Big Ten counterpart right now for Ohio State. How about Indiana's final drive to beat Penn State and keep...
You watch it live?
No, we were calling the NKU game.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
So
yes,
I pulled it up on my laptop as NKU's going, and I saw the catch for the touchdown. Like I saw that final few plays, and I saw their last defensive stand a little bit as I was calling the game. But man, I mean, I was so thrilled they were able to pull off that win to keep this Big Ten title game on track the way we wanted.
I mean, when he threw the pass, I honestly thought he was trying to throw it away. And I'm on my couch. I was home alone. Had the dog with me. And I watched him go up and get it. And I watched his feet. And I went, oh my God, he caught that. And then I thought, man, I wonder if he didn't, because I thought he got a foot in. And then they kept showing the replay. And you're like, ooh, is he in? And sure enough, it was great camera work, great slow-mo replay. Like, oh my gosh, he did get in. It was a hell of a drive to watch.
Hell of a call by that ref. Got it right on the field.
And what about your boy Gus Johnson losing his voice?
That was a bad call. That was a bad call by Gus.
It was. Sometimes the yelling can be a little too much.
I'm not a huge Gus hater, but that's a massive, massive college football play that's going to be replayed for years and years to come by Penn State fans. I mean, that was a terrible call by him, quite honestly. It sounded like nothing.
He lost his voice on it.
Yeah, which, I mean, I feel bad from there, but like that's what happens when you scream in a high-pitched voice like that. Correct. For those situations. I mean, not a great look for our guy, Gus. Another Ask Anything question. I'm going to move up into our college football segment here. Are the Big Ten and SEC title games, as it stands now, going to be strictly for top 4 seeding? The losers of those games don't have to worry about not getting a bye, do they?
No, I wouldn't think so, because it's right now in the SEC. It's A&M. Is it A&M and Alabama?
Yes.
Maybe Alabama. If Alabama were to lose, that would give them a second loss. That could slide them out of a bye. That could slide them out of a bye.
You think? I mean, just if they're clearly the next best team after the first two, and you lose the SEC championship, you think that drops you out?
Yeah, who was ranked 5th this week in
Georgia, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's other SEC teams that you're already in theory better than.
Because I don't know if in that case, to the point of the question, to that point, should you get dinged for playing that extra game when a Georgia sits at home and doesn't play in it with a loss?
Right, that's the question, and especially when you're talking about it's from your own conference.
You know who snuck its way back into the college football playoff conversation is Texas. As goofy as this season's been for them, they're on the cusp of getting back in. Yeah,
they're sitting at 10th right now. I mean, Notre Dame's basically played their way in.
Right.
As long as they don't slip up here, they're in. Yeah,
a guy I coach with is a Notre Dame grad, and I mean, he didn't think even if they won out that they would probably be able to fight their way back in, but here they are.
This feels a lot like last year for Notre Dame. They ended up in the championship.
It does.
Everyone just kind of forgets about them because they're early losses, and then all of a sudden they just start stacking wins and playing well and getting that defense going. I think our guy Freeman might have a little bit of a recipe there for success.
Maybe, but you'd like to not have to sweat it by having to win out every year after game 2 or game 3.
Yeah, that no doubt. But he's
and that's the thing. I mean, the Texas A&M game. I didn't know the Texas A&M game at the time would be as good a loss as it is. Right.
Right. I think everyone feels that way. At the time, it was like, oh, that's tough for Notre Dame. But now Texas A&M's legit.
Yep.
All right, let's get to our pick'em, Skinny. You were 3-1 last week. The only problem for you last week is we didn't have that extra game in there. We didn't have as many games to pick because you were hot and I was ice cold. You were 3-1. I was 0-4. So you made up a couple games there. You are now 32-36. I am 34-34. Indiana barely beat Penn State, so my best bet failed. It was a 14.5-point spread. West Virginia beat Colorado 29-22. It was a 6.5-point spread, so your best bet won.
I sweated that one out. I'm not going to lie.
It was a tight one, but better than my situation where we've got a producer, running the board for us for the NKU game back at station, and he goes, Indiana's going to beat Penn State like late in that game, and I was like, oh, that's not good for my betting segment this week. And sure enough, I was over. So Saturday at noon, we've got Arizona at Cincinnati. The Bearcats are a 6.5-point favorite. The total is 56.5.
I think it's going to be a good game. UC wins it because they're at home, but I think it's a nail biter. I'll go UC 27-24.
All right. So that is Arizona to cover, and you are under the number of 56.5. I like Arizona to cover, but Cincinnati to win as well. We're pretty similar here, but I'm going to go over. 31-27, Cincinnati wins, Arizona covers, and it hits the over is my prediction. Saturday at 1:30, we've got Tennessee Tech at Kentucky. Kentucky is a 21.5-point favorite. The total is 52.5.
Man, I want to tell you, Kentucky smacks this team because they're kind of playing well right now, especially defensively. I mean, they've given up 10 points in the last 2 games combined. You're playing an FCS team. But this is a 10-0 FCS team. I can't discount that. That being said, just because of how well they're playing on defense and they've run the ball on almost everybody this year, I'll go Kentucky 31-6.
31-6. So Kentucky covers and it stays well under the number. I agree with you on the under here. I like the under play. I think Kentucky's running game and the defense combined the way they're playing right now makes this an easy win. I'm going 38-10, Kentucky in the under for me as well. Saturday at 7:30, you've got UCLA at Ohio State. The spread is 31.5. The total is 48.5.
Yeah, this is a name your score game. I mean, UCLA had that little mini run after they fired Dino Foster, the head coach, and won those 3 games over Penn State, which looked like a monumental win at the time. And
right.
Now, what Penn State's become. Michigan State's terrible, and then Maryland, which isn't very good. They kind of lost their mojo when they got smacked at Indiana because then they lost at home to Nebraska last Saturday night in the Saturday night special. The 31.5, though, they other than the Indiana game, they've played well in 4 of the last 5, or at least competitively. And I hate name your score games because it's a matter of, does Ohio State pull the plug on this one, or do they just get the nice, comfortable win and call it a day? I'm going to go Ohio State 37-10. I'm going to give UCLA the cover. I'm going to probably be wrong because it's going to probably be 33-0 at the half.
All right, so it's UCLA and the under. The number is 48.5. You have it at 47 there. Here's the thing that I'm betting on with this. I agree with everything you just said. You said it perfectly. It's like a name your score game. It's all a matter of like, does Ohio State want to? What are they working on? What type of plays are they calling early? Ryan Day, I think, is cognizant of the numbers. I think he likes to cover for his fan base. They cover very often, and last week they did not.
You're right.
I'm thinking he's going to run up the score a little bit here. I'm going to Ohio State 42, UCLA 3, Ohio State in the under for me. All right, Bengals, Sunday at 1. Steelers are a 5.5-point spread. The total is 49.5.
I can't figure this Steelers team out, man. I mean, they get blitzkrieg by the Bengals, come back home and play okay on a Sunday night against Green Bay, beat Indy at home, and turn around and they looked a mess on Sunday night in against the Chargers. I'm going to do the bet against here. I can't pick the Bengals to win with the defense until I see otherwise. But I do think they cover this. I'll go Steelers 30, Bengals 27.
So
let me just tell you this: if the Steelers' offense looks as bad as they did, I mean, when did the drum beat start that Aaron Rodgers is cooked?
I feel like it's already kind of playing. It's just they haven't hit the base yet. I'm right there with you on this. I think Bengals and the over is the play. I'm going 35-31. Steelers win, Bengals cover, and it hits the over. What's your best bet of the week, Skinny?
Well, I hate to do this because it won't have a lot of shelf life, but I'm going to the Thursday night NFL game. New England's laying 13 at home to the god-awful Jets. The Jets, as we recall, came into Paycor Stadium and rolled up 502 yards and 39 points. In the 2 games before that and last week's game, they put up 470 yards combined. They scored 2 special teams touchdowns last week against Cleveland. Otherwise had, I believe, either 169 yards total offense or 190. And yes, I do understand special teams touchdowns take a couple of possessions away, but they are a disaster on it. Again, I think that shows you just how god-awful this Bengals defense is, that offense, which in the 3 games around it, 2 games before, the 1 game after, had 470 combined and had 402 against that atrocious defense. I think New England at home, I know it's one of those ones. They're coming off a big win at Tampa. They've got a road game at the Bengals next week. I don't think they're going to get caught looking ahead to the Bengals. But I just don't see the Jets doing much offensively. And even if New England does minimal offensively, they're getting in the 20s, in my opinion. I think they win this one by 20-plus points.
All right. Well, I'm seeing 12.5 right now on FanDuel. So New England minus 12.5 over the Jets on Thursday Night Football is the play from Skinny. I'm going back to my well. I haven't been good on these best bets recently. I was hot. I cooled off here. So what do I do to get back on track? Let's pick on Georgia State again. It's worked the first 2 times earlier in the season. We've got a 7.5 point spread. Marshall minus 7.5 at Georgia State. Georgia State is 1-8 against the spread. They're the worst team in all of FBS against the spread. I'm taking Marshall minus 7.5. Let's just roll with what's been working for me.
Hey, man, the last 2 of my best bets were more bet against. I bet against Colorado, and they actually performed well enough to make me sweat. And the week before, whoever I bet against the other team. It was more bet against than bet on, to be honest with you.
I don't know a damn thing about Georgia State. I haven't watched them for a second all year. I just know early in the season, I saw a weird line. I picked against them, and ever since, I've been keeping a little bit of an eye on them, and they never cover. So I'm just going back to that well. That's all it is.
Why not?
All right, we got one Reds question before we get to Ask Skinny anything here. The Reds announced their 2026 Reds Hall of Fame fan vote. The 8 players fans can vote on include Homer Bailey, Francisco Cordero, Zach Cozart, Aaron Harang, Mike Leake, Brandon Phillips, Scott Rowland, and Edison Volquez. 2 of those 8 will be inducted to the 2026 Reds Hall of Fame. Which 2 would you choose, Skinny?
I thought Brandon Phillips was a no-brainer.
No question.
That's the one that's the no-brainer to me on there. I would probably lean towards Scott Rowland just because of what he meant to those teams, and he ended up getting in the Hall of Fame itself. Like Mike Leake had a career with the Reds. Edson Volquez had a nice career, but nothing that made me go, wow. Homer Bailey kind of the same way. I can be talked into Homer Bailey because of the no-hitters. I mean, he was a solid guy with the no-hitters and on playoff pitching staffs. So I'll go definitively with Brandon. Brandon Phillips to me is like the no-brainer. When I first saw the list, I kind of did this exercise myself, and it was like, okay, Brandon Phillips, and then I was bouncing around from names. I'll go with Homer Bailey.
You did not mention my second name. Brandon Phillips is a no-brainer. You're absolutely right. It's like automatic, no question. The other guy I would choose is Aaron Harang. Solid career. I'll give you that part. 7th best Reds starting pitcher since 1950. Sits between Soto and Cueto on that list.
Unfortunately, it's probably because he was on bad teams.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's it. He played for meaningless teams mostly, but that dude had a long, steady career for the Reds. I think I got to go Aaron Harang. Now, the guy that you brought up that I thought is the most interesting name on the list is Homer Bailey, because I think a lot of people don't like him. I think he had a reputation as being kind of a jerk while he was here. I think fans felt like he was overpaid because of the early contract he signed, and he never ended up being quite the reliable star or ace that people thought his talent could turn him into one day. But he does have the no-hitters. I mean, those are pretty memorable moments in Reds baseball. I don't know. That's going to be a fascinating one to see how fans think about Homer Bailey. Yeah, I think we both agree. Brandon Phillips will be the no-brainer for everybody on this one. He's one of the best players in Reds franchise history, and he's right after a lot of those big Reds machines names probably when you look at WAR and all of that type of stuff. So he's a no-doubter, and also just his defense, Skinny. Yeah. It was incredible to watch for how long. He was so good for so long for the Reds at second base. And no, I was a big Brandon Phillips fan. Look what it's been like since then, too. Right. No, right. Good point. All right, let's get into Ask Skinny Anything. We got a handful of questions. We'll see what we get to here. This is actually stemming from me, but it's a question I got in my group text afterwards. When is the last time you wore 2 different shoes out in public? Oh, no. What did you do? I wore 2 shoes out in public yesterday. I get up. I've got 2 different pairs of black Adidas shoes. Okay. For when I'm in my NKU travel gear. It's all like black travel gear for the most part. So I have black Adidas gym shoes that I wear for games, and I have a second pair that I wear just like around during the day. I wore one of each out to shoot around yesterday morning, then out to Chili's for lunch. And I never even noticed until I got back to the hotel. And Skinny, they don't even feel the same. Like they're completely two different types of shoes on my feet. I don't know how I didn't notice. And that was the most concerning part, quite honestly, is once I got back to the hotel and I realized it's like, I'm at an age now where that's a real thing that can happen to me. And I won't even notice.
So were these shoes you could just step into without looking?
Pretty much, yeah. I just like slide them on. I didn't have to like pick them up and sit there and tie them or anything.
Well, so here's my amount of shoes. I have one pair of dress shoes. I have a pair of blue Adidas sneakers that I only wear when I wear some like blue pants. I can't remember where I got them. I got them really cheap, or my daughter might have got them for me the tent sale, really cheap. And I think they bought them for me. I'm like, these really don't go with anything, but okay. I coach at a school that we're red and white, so it's not I can't wear the blue shoes to practice. That looks a little out of place. I've got a pair of white with black Adidas. I got a pair of gray Adidas. And I've got a pair of lighter gray that I just bought, Pumas, that was bought for me. And I'm able to keep them side by side. And I will say this, Rick, I'm the guy that I like to step into tennis shoes without really looking, but a couple of those pairs, you just can't do it because they just don't work. Or you got to literally, even if you don't untie them at the end of the day, where you just kick them off, I can slide it back on, but I have to like look down to slide it on and wiggle my foot in there. So I don't think that would happen to me. Like I said, I only have the one pair of dress shoes.
I had to look down. I mean, it's not like shoes I just like completely, they're not sandals or something. They're gym shoes. I don't necessarily retie them every time, but I don't know how it happened. They were both sitting in a similar spot. So I guess that's how, but yeah, it was, the interesting part. It would be the interesting part is the text message I got afterwards, Skinny, were immediately about you. I got one person that said Skinny is rubbing off on you too much. And then the next, we have a group text of guys that all listen to the show. And they said, ask Skinny when the last time he's done that is, because there's no doubt that he's done it before.
No, I could have. I do have some like old tennis shoes become like work shoes in the garage, right? Like when you go out in the yard and do yard work, those are the ones you put on. Yeah. It's conceivable I've slipped on one of each. I don't even remember doing it, but that would be because they're just scattered out there. So I just pick at them and slam them on real fast and then go out in the yard and do whatever yard work needs to be done. That part's conceivable, but where I've seen in public, I can't say I've done that.
No one said anything to me either, which I mean, it's probably just no one cares about what I'm doing at an NKU shoot around. They're not paying attention to my shoes, I guess. And they're similar enough. But I mean, I really, the more concerning part is that people did see me and were just like, that guy's a mess. Like that's par for the course with him, you know?
Yeah, I do remember the one thing I have done is I had a pair of blue dress slacks that I guess I put on in the dark and I thought they were black. And I can't remember whatever I wore with it. I was trying to match it up with the black. And then I looked down.
A black jacket.
Oh, this just doesn't go. This doesn't work.
That's tough. Yeah, the navy and black thing can get you in the mornings.
Yeah.
Is Skinny a pink shirt guy?
I've got a pink shirt. I got a pink golf shirt. I think I've worn it on the podcast before.
Yeah, I feel like you have now that you say that.
Yeah. It's pink and white, but it's pink.
Is Skinny a Geta man? And if so, what's his favorite kind of Geta?
I'm not. I hate to say that to everybody because I know that whenever you say you're not, people shame you, man. It's like, you don't like Geta? I mean, I've got some good friends of ours. They love Geta, man. If we ever go out to breakfast, they get Geta. I never acquired the taste for it, and I hate to tell you, I'm not a Geta man. Honestly, I am almost exclusively bacon. I mean, I like when the Bengals, they've done this to us a couple of times this season, and it really pisses us off. They've substituted these like maple flavored sausages that are just grotesque. They taste awful. So they didn't give us bacon in the last home game. They gave us the sausages again. And I asked somebody, I said, they taste different than the last time? Oh yeah, these are better. So I'm like, okay, I'll grab a couple of sausages. I took one bite, and honestly, I thought I was going to die. I'm like, oh, this is just awful. How hard is it to get
the crispy bacon?
Crispy bacon, man.
That's what everybody knows. The Bengals pregame meal is crispy bacon. I mean,
one thing they do well.
One thing that the GM department is being put towards the bacon.
Correct.
Ones. Yeah. That the Geta thing is. I love Geta, but it is funny how it's like it's a peasant food. I mean, it's made to like, ration out your food and stretch it out longer. And yet, if you do not like it in this area, you are shamed. That's a funny thing.
It's the same way. I do the same thing when people go, "Oh, Skyline chili." Like, you never go try it. You're gonna like this. You're gonna like Cincinnati style chili. I promise you. No, it's got to be an acquired taste for you heathens in that area. No, it's It's pretty good. So again, I don't get on anybody if they like Geta. I just don't happen to have a taste for Geta.
Yeah, I'm really liking the new Grippo's Geta.
Should I like put ketchup on it or anything? If I do eat it, what should I put on it? Because Geta by itself, it's just too plain for me.
I mean, I like Geta like in a sandwich, like a Geta egg and cheese sandwich. Okay. I like get on like in a bowl with potatoes or something, egg, something like that, cheese going with it. So it's good as just like the same way you would use bacon or sausage mixed in with things too. I like it like that. But the new Grippo's Geta that they came out with the Grippo seasoning in it, that's good.
Okay. So it probably has some flavor. It has a little bit of flavor to it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, another food question here. What's Skinny's favorite breakfast if he didn't have to worry about calories or a diet or anything like that? What would you choose to eat?
There's nothing better than a good waffle. I mean, I make them on my own on occasion here at home, like wintertime, and I'm not a big breakfast guy, but some of those winter morning, you wake up and it's like, I got nothing to do today. I'm gonna have myself a handful of waffles for breakfast. I'm gonna go a really good waffle with a bunch of bacon.
You're a waffle over a pancake guy, huh? I prefer pancake.
I like pancakes, but I'd go for a good waffle. Maybe it's because whenever you go to those hotels that have those things, have the breakfasts, the eggs just never. Eggs just never are right, and so those waffles come out, I think, perfect every time, and that kind of gives you that little hankering for a waffle every once in a while.
I'm not a big egg guy in general. I mean, you kind of have to eat them, but
I'm not a big breakfast guy. But I make scrambled eggs. I don't really do any other kind of eggs other than scrambled.
Do you like biscuits and gravy?
I don't. It's too heavy. They actually serve that. They serve that in the press box. Actually, on most Sundays, they serve the biscuits and gravy, and the people that eat it.
That's not something you want to do before a work day.
Yeah, I say it's really good. It's just that's going to be too heavy for me.
Yeah, I love biscuits and gravy, but you're right. It is heavy. All right, we'll wrap it up with this one.
Let me tell you this. I would take a good waffle. So let's just do the Waffle House. Do a good waffle.
Yeah.
Bacon and just regular old hash browns. I don't even scatter something. Just regular old hash browns with salt on them. Boom, I'm good.
Now you're talking. I love the hash brown add-on right there. And we'll wrap this up. I guess this is like kind of leading us into the holiday season here, this question. Okay. Do you prefer actual presents or gift cards?
We don't really do the gift card thing. I don't think I'd mind that. I think I'm actual presents. I'm not a big. Usually, it's something practical for me. Believe it or not, like
I believe it.
Sweatpants or pants or shoes. I'm just not a big present. I don't need. I mean, honestly, I don't need anything. I don't.
Yeah, I think that's the way most grown men start to feel after a certain age. You hit about your mid to late 20s, and you're just like, I'm out of stuff to ask for. Just I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, truly, unless I'm desperate for like 1 year, I think I needed new footies. Okay, give me a big thing of footies. I've replenished the supply. Could I go to a store and get them myself? Sure, but okay, it gives you something to give me. I'll take the footies.
Yeah, I'm big with like the in-laws and everyone that like where they demand that you give them something like a gift to get for you. I'm always just like Amazon gift card. Can you get anything with that?
I will say this. When I was in college, and I was dating my wife, my eventual to be mother-in-law would always get me a big thick thing of McDonald's gift certificates, which went a long way back then.
Yeah, I bet.
That was a pretty sweet deal.
You were crushing that value menu back in the day.
Yeah, my kids we used to put it in the stocking. I used to get 2 big things of peanut M&Ms every year. That was kind of the stocking stuffer for me, but I haven't got those in a while. Maybe because I don't eat them much anymore.
That might have something to do with it, I would guess. Yeah. All right, that's all we got.
All right, appreciate it very much. We will be back next week, see if the Bengals can pull out another game 41-40 or lose 41-40 because they seem to find a way to do that too. We got more college basketball. We'll talk about big test coming up for UC and much, much more. For Rick Broing, I'm Richard Skinner. It's been the Skinny Podcast, the weekly Poetry Edition, presented by Blake, the Attorney Mason.